What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and today we have to talk about Sundial Stock, ticker symbol SNDL, because this stock has been suffering a bit lately, even though they have some great catalysts coming up that we're going to talk about. They had a great earnings call last quarter. They're doing share buybacks, but we're going to talk about the catalyst that Sundial Stock has going for it right now. And we'll start off by taking a look at the chart, and you can see that on the day, they're actually pretty stagnant, right? They're only up, or rather, they're down 0.1%. So basically, exactly where they closed, they're sitting at right now. So not much of a change. You can see there's been a little bit of volatility with Sundial stock over the course of the day. We've moved up, we've moved down. Now we're just sitting. We're going to see what happens, right? Obviously, the shorts are trying to keep us down somewhat, but there are some reasons why Sundial could be moving up. Obviously, we've kind of followed the same pattern that we have of the past, where we've pumped up big and then we've gotten shot down over the next couple of days. Usually it's the next couple of minutes, though. This news was bigger than most, but you can see that happens time and time again. Sundial shoots up and then gets shot down, and then later it gets shot up and shot down again. So hopefully this will be the last time that we actually get shot down, because the next catalysts that come out for Sundial could be relatively massive. First of all, I wanted to point out that a majority of Texas Republicans back marijuana legalization. A poll just found, this just came out 2 days ago, and it showed that a strong majority of Texans, including most Republicans, support legalizing marijuana for adult use. And the survey actually found that 67% of Texas residents back marijuana legalization, and 51% of those participants were also Republicans. So good news from a viewpoint standpoint of how many people are thinking about marijuana legalization as a good thing. It's the majority of the country, so I think that pretty soon we could actually be seeing marijuana legalization. That's what this article is talking about. The new GOP weed approach that says feds must, and this is a quote, get out of the way. So basically, what this is saying is that nearly half of Republicans, as we just saw from that Texas poll, support federally decriminalizing cannabis, and GOP lawmakers are now beginning to reflect their constituents' views by increasingly supporting broad legalization at a state and federal level. We've seen this in a couple of places, but first off, Representative Nancy Mace from South Carolina said, "We need the federal government just to get out of the way." So this is a quote that I think will define Republicans' viewpoints on cannabis legalization from this point forward, right? I think that they are taking the limited government approach when it comes to cannabis, which is really good because 70% of Americans support the idea of marijuana legalization, and stronger Republican involvement could hasten the snowball effect on Capitol Hill, where Democrats have typically been the ones who have been trying to decriminalize cannabis, but have not actually been able to do it yet. So now that it seems like Republicans and Democrats both want to legalize cannabis, hopefully that means that since they're going to supposedly be working together, at least working towards an issue that they both have a common aim for, they'll actually be able to get it done. Obviously, the government moves slow. It's going to take some time, but I really can't think of any excuses why they wouldn't be able to do this. If they both want to legalize cannabis, if both Democrats and Republicans want it, I mean, I can't think of why they wouldn't have the votes to do it, unless people are not sticking with their parties and a bunch of people are just kind of going off on their own and deciding to, for whatever reason, not legalize cannabis. Potentially pharmaceutical companies don't want it legal. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But earlier this year, it is notable that North Dakota's GOP-dominated House passed a marijuana legalization bill introduced by 2 Republicans. So this is once again just showing dominating Republican support for cannabis legalization. And Mace's bill marks the first time ever that a Republican has proposed federal legalization to decriminalize cannabis. So this really is a one-of-a-kind situation. We really could be looking at the beginning days of actual federal cannabis legalization, because this has never happened before. Typically, it's been Republicans holding legalization back. Now that they're actually the ones sponsoring it, they're the ones saying that they want legalization, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for politicians on Capitol Hill to find an excuse not to legalize it, right? Republicans used to be the excuse. They used to be the scapegoat. They used to be the reason that we couldn't legalize it. Now Republicans are saying, let's legalize it. So it'll be very interesting to see if politicians can squirm their way out of actually legalizing cannabis. And it's worth noting that many of the GOP proposals include lower taxes and less regulation than Democratic-led bills. So that's actually a good thing, right? We don't want cannabis to be too heavily regulated. We want maybe some regulation to keep people safe, but we don't want too much, because what can happen if you have too much is a situation like what you've got in Canada, where about half of the cannabis that is consumed is illegal cannabis, right? It's not made by real producers because people don't want to pay the taxes on it. And this is actually a good thing, right? Because you don't want, if you're talking about a stock going up like Sundial, you don't want a lot of illegal producers taking up the market share of cannabis in the country, because then Sundial won't be selling as much, right? It'll be the illegal producers selling most of it. So you'd much rather have people be able to get it easily from a legal source like Sundial than an illegal source, which is cheaper because there's less regulation. So this is actually a good thing that the GOPs are the ones proposing this bill. So it's actually good that there's less regulation, in my opinion, than some other Democratic-led bills. And I will point out about Sundial stock that I know that over the past, if you look at the past year, this stock has not been kind to a lot of investors. Over the past year, you can see it has dropped somewhat dramatically from the highs, at least, that we were seeing. And a lot of people may potentially be down on money. They might be, now that we're near all-time lows, looking, well, not all-time lows, but near lows of this recent dump that we've been on since the past highs. A lot of people might be looking to get some additional capital to trade Sundial with, and something you can do if you're interested is go to any one of my recent videos, and you just have to click the link in the description to get a free $50 when you sign up for and fund an M1 Finance account. Now, this is probably going to take you 10 minutes tops to do, so 10 minutes for $50, all you got to do is click on the link, and there's a free $50 waiting for you. Just sign up and fund your M1 account. And it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. All you have to do is sign up, make the account. That probably takes 5 minutes, and then make an initial deposit, I believe, of $100. And you don't have to buy anything with it. You can take the money right back out after you get your $50. It should just take a couple of days to get there, and then you've got a free $50. So if anyone's interested in that, if they're looking for some extra capital to potentially trade Sundial or any other stock with, it's in the description of this video, in the description of all my videos. You get a free $50 right there from M1 Finance if you're interested in that. So feel free to do it. Now, other cannabis-related news, we're talking about Germany, where we've talked about this on the channel before, but it was only leaks in the past, right? Germany now has officially announced they will legalize marijuana and promote drug harm reduction. Their governing party coalition has officially announced. So big news. We already kind of knew this was happening. We've talked about it in the past, but the leaders of Germany's incoming governing parties announced on Wednesday that they have a formal agreement to legalize marijuana and promote broader drug policy harm reduction measures when they take power. And this is a quote: "We are introducing the controlled supply of cannabis to adults for consumption in licensed stores. This controls the quality of marijuana, prevents the transfer of contaminated substances, and guarantees the protection of minors." As it stands, personal possession of marijuana is decriminalized in Germany, so people don't really have to worry about going to jail for it at the moment. But there's also a medical cannabis program, but this would actually allow it to start being sold in stores and getting taxed, and that's going to be really good for cannabis companies, because in the past, Sundial doesn't actually have any business in Germany. Maybe they'll expand there in the future, but in the past, if you were a cannabis company and you were hoping to do business in Germany, no can do, right? It's not legal. Maybe you could do some medical cannabis, but that was about it. Now there will actually be stores for recreational use, and it is notable that this also advances other drug policy reforms, such as establishing, if you guys are interested in other drugs and you're in Germany, such as establishing drug checking services where people can have illicit drugs tested for contaminants and other harmful substances without fear of facing criminal sanctions. So that's a big problem, though. A lot of people are taking these drugs that are illegal, and they're worried about them being potentially contaminated, and they have no way to test to see if those drugs are safe. Now, according to this bill at least, German people will be able to get their drugs tested at certain facilities, and they won't be sent to jail if they have those drugs, right? They'll just be let to go on their way. So good stuff overall, right? Helping out people who are in potentially a tough situation if they're addicted to a drug, and they want to get off of it maybe, but they don't want to take drugs that are spiked with something. That's a potential good avenue for them, right? That's a good thing, I think, that the bill is introducing. And I will point out that while lawmakers emphasize that the objective of marijuana legalization is not to boost tax revenue for the country, that taxing cannabis, like cigarettes, could generate 1 billion euros annually. And that's in Germany. Much smaller market for cannabis than the U.S. is going to have. I think the U.S. could be getting quite a bit more in tax dollars for cannabis than Germany could. So there is all the more reason for the United States to legalize it. I think that's what Republicans are realizing now that they're really talking in a big way about legalizing cannabis. And I think that could be really good for the government to actually get that additional revenue, because we are in a big deficit, right? The government is going deeper in debt every day. They need some tax revenue. I think it just makes sense if the people want it legal and the government needs some more money to start legalizing and taxing cannabis. So that's something that we've got on Sundial stock. Obviously, none of this is financial advice. It's tough to say what's actually going to happen with Sundial stock in the near term, but over the long term, these catalysts certainly seem very promising in my opinion. But I, once again, am not giving out financial advice. I'm not trying to convince anyone to buy or sell. This is just my opinion. I'm just reading out the catalysts to you guys, letting you know what's going on in the cannabis and Sundial space. So other than that, guys, have a great day. Feel free to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed. And other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.